Okay, Hare Krishna, welcome. So, today we are going to conclude the 12th chapter. We are going to start from 12.15 and go till the end of the 12th chapter. So, before we begin, I'll say the prayers to Guru and God, and then I will play the Guru mantra. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalake Chakshurum Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna.
गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः.
Hare Krishna. So I'll play the slokas now.
यस्मान्नोद्विजते लोको लोकान्नोद्विजते च यः हर्षामर्षभयोद्वेगैर्मुक्तो यः स च मे प्रियः अनपेक्षश्चुचिर्दक्ष उदासीनो गतव्यथः सर्वारम्भपरित्यागी यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः यो न हृष्यति न द्वेष्टि न शोचति न काङ्क्षति शुभाशुभपरित्यागी भक्तिमान् यः स मे प्रियः समः शत्रौ च मित्रे च तथा मानापमानयोः शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु समः सङ्गविवर्जितः तुल्यनिन्दास्तुतिर्मौली सन्तुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेतस्थिरमतिर्भक्तिमान् मे प्रियो नरः ये तु धर्म्यामृतमिदं यथोक्तं पर्युपासते श्रद्धधाना मत्परमा भक्तास्तेतीव मे प्रियाः ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे भक्तियोगो नाम 12ोऽध्यायः.
Okay, Hare Krishna. So, who is reading today?
I will be reading today.
Welcome, Sandeep ji. This is your first service.
Yes.
All the best. Okay, go ahead. Please read all the remaining slokas.
Yes. Hare Krishna. So the translations are as follows. 12.15. Those by whom the world is not agitated and who are not agitated by the world, who are calm and composed in pleasure and pain and free from fear and anxiety are dear to me. 12.16. Those who are indifferent to worldly gains, pure, skillful, impartial, free from fear, untroubled, who has renounced the fruits of their undertakings, such devotees of mine are very dear to me. 12.17. Those who neither rejoice, nor hate, nor grieve, nor desire, renouncing good and evil, full of devotion, are dear to me. 12.18 and 12.19. Those who are equal to friends and foes, equipoised in honor and dishonor, cold and heat, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, and are free from all contaminating association, those who take praise and criticism alike, who are given to silent contemplation, content with what comes their way, without attachment to the place of residence, whose intellect is firmly fixed in me, and who are always engaged in devotional service to me, such persons are very dear to me. 12.20. Those who follow this immortal dharma of devotional service as described above and who have complete faith in me, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful rendition. I was saying in the forum also, all the teachings of Krishna, they are very important, needless to say. But for people who are on the path of Bhakti Yoga, needless to say, Bhakti Yoga is a very important chapter. And in that chapter, I would say this session is probably the most impactful for us because we will be trying to cover the key aspects of what we require to succeed, and I'll also try to summarize everything for you all. Okay, so hopefully you all leave this session with a lot more insights and feeling empowered to succeed on the path. So, with the blessings of Krishna, let's proceed. So, in the previous session, we saw Krishna was talking about some of the qualities of a devotee. And now he continues. He's continuing his teachings and he is explaining in details few other characteristics which determine who a true devotee is. As I always say, we need to first know whether we are on the right track. See, we can always say, I'm walking fast, I'm walking consistently, but are you walking in the right direction? That's very important. Just like that, we may say that I'm doing a lot of, kriya, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but if your goal is to get union with God, are you on the right track? That is what is important. And that's what Krishna is trying to clarify here in these teachings here. So he's giving a very clear picture of who the ideal devotee is. So a very beautiful aspect that he is saying here is, these are the qualities, he says, that will make you a good devotee. And also the beautiful part is, he says, once you are progressing on devotion, these qualities will automatically evolve in you. So in other words, it's like saying a tree comes from a seed. We all agree. But then a seed also comes from a tree. You see the two-way relationship. So that's what Krishna is trying to explain here, saying, you start trying to imbibe some of these qualities and try to grow on the path of bhakti. And as you grow on the path of bhaktis, all the required qualities will automatically, grow in you. Very, very empowering, very, very powerful concept here. And vice versa. That is why we say avoid kusanga. Because you can start with just one bad quality. You can start with just one bad habit. But what will happen? Automatically, all the bad things will start manifesting inside us. All the bad qualities will keep growing inside us. So that is why we have to be very, very careful. So what are the key qualities Krishna is calling out? The first one he is calling out is, a devotee will cause no agitation. He doesn't cause agitation in others, nor is he agitated by others. See, in olden days when they wrote in Sanskrit, many times the interpretation would just by default say he, but it applies to everybody. So this is very important because when we say a devotee does not cause any agitation, that is aligned with the principle of non-violence, ahimsa, where we don't harm anybody. And when you say harm anybody, it doesn't just mean you don't go beat up somebody. Harm anybody basically means you are not harming them even in thought or words or deeds. So once you practice this, your presence itself will have a calming influence on people around you. That is one of the marks of a devotee that Krishna is calling out. And here, be very careful about understanding the right message. The right message is that of empathy. Empathy means you are able to identify with other people's problems. You are able to identify with other people's pains. It takes a lot of efforts. It's not sympathy. Sympathy means what? Somebody sitting on the street, somebody seems hungry, you throw a few rupees at them, you walk away, and that's it. And then you are done, right? That is sympathy. It's okay. I mean, sympathy has its place. But here, the quality of a devotee we are talking about is empathy. Empathy means you are practicing that samadarshana. You are practicing that kind of empathy, and then you evolve as a devotee. So in the Isha Upanishad, there is a sloka that says, Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani evan pashyati sarva bhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijugupsate. It says, one who sees all living entities as spiritual sparks, in quality one with the Lord, and sees the supreme soul in every living being, thereafter feels no hatred for anyone. So they are giving you the prerequisites. We all say we have to reach that stage, but how do we reach that stage? The very simple concept given in the Upanishad is try to actually believe and realize that everybody is a tiny spark of the same Lord. So if I am the same tiny spark, you are the same tiny spark, and if I believe in that, if I have faith in that, automatically I will be empathetic towards you. Very, very important. But the other part is also important. So Krishna is saying that a true devotee will not agitate anybody. In other words, will not disturb other people. And he will also not get agitated by anybody or agitated by the world, which is another very, very important. Does any word come to mind when we say that a devotee does not get disturbed? Okay, I have one hand, two hands, three hands, 4, 5, 6. We have not heard for a long time from Ashaji. Ashaji, what word comes to mind?
Samadarshana.
Yes, Samadarshanaha is that equal vision. Good. One more. What word, Chitraji?
Samatvam.
Samatvam. And if you practice Samatvam, where does it take you?
Chitta pragya.
Okay. Excellent. So when Krishna says such a devotee does not get agitated either, that is what he has explained as a Sthita Pragya. So, see, as I keep on repeating, everything connects with everything else in Krishna's teachings. So he mentions Sthita Pragya way back in the second, third chapters, but now in the 12th chapter, it again connects. Very, very important. So how did Krishna explain Sthita Pragya in the second chapter? In 2.14, Krishna had said, Matra sparshastu konteya shitoshna sukha dukkada. He said, the contact of the senses with the objects, they bring about the sensation of heat and cold, pleasure and pain. But these are all temporary. These are all fleeting. So learn to just tolerate and learn to accept. This is how Krishna was coaching Arjuna on how to become a Sthita Pragya. So Krishna's emphasis on not causing agitation and not being agitated, it is based on a heart filled with compassion and empathy for all the beings. He is teaching that is a true yogi. The true yogi that, you rightly said, Ashaji, Samadarshanaha. That is what is a manifestation of such a mindset. And even the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is elaborating on that. It talks about the highest devotee as being one who can see God in everyone. It's not enough if you just see God in everyone. You have to also act that way. Na? Very important, right? You have to act like everybody has God in them. No, I'm going to touch upon some very, very important concepts here. So this particular sloka I'm talking about from the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is in the 11th canto, 2nd chapter. Very beautiful. It starts with Sri Havir Uvacha. See, because we know Bhagavan Uvacha, we know Arjun Uvacha. Here it is Sri Havir Uvacha. And it says, Sarva Bhuteshu ya pashyed Bhagavad Bhavam Atmanaha Bhutani Bhagavati Atmane Esa Bhagavatotamaha. So Sri Havir, he says, the highest devotee, which is term used here is Bhagavatottama or Uttama Bhagavata, it's the same thing. Is one who sees the presence of God in all living beings and all living beings being situated in the Supreme Lord. So in this verse, he is explaining who is that supreme devotee, perfect devotee, Uttama Bhagavata. So this insight, this is kind of the foundation, the founding idea that the highest devotee will act in harmony with others because of their deep awareness. It's not enough to just have a theoretical knowledge saying Samadarshanaha, Krishna is in everything, Krishna is in everywhere. It has to become a way of life. It has to be, we have to act that way, act in accordance with that realization. So we have to first realize it, practice it, and then you reach that stage of Uttama Bhagavata, the perfect devotee. So here when we say Shri Havir Uvacha, who is Havir? And so I wanted to touch upon this because it leads to some very, very profound, insightful learnings for all of us. So Sri Havir is of course a great sage, and he is one of the 9 Yogendras. So they're known as Yogendras. These are all basically sons of King Rishabha. I hope you all know who Rishabha is, because the great King Bharata was also a son of Rishabha. So the entire country is named as Bharatavarsha. So he was a son of Rishabha, and Rishabha had other sons also. So 9 of his sons went on to be called as Yogendras. And why we are talking about them? Because these Yogendras, they had a very profound knowledge about devotion. They had very profound knowledge about the path of bhakti. And these 9 Yogendras, they were all spoken and explained about different aspects of this path. That is why I wanted to talk about it. I'll share the notes, and feel free to go and do more research on each one of them if you are interested. But here I'm trying to condense all of it and make it relevant to this particular session. So let me just summarize these 9 Yogendras, who they were and what they were teaching. So the first one, his name was Kavi. And Kavi speaks about the essence of Bhakti Yoga. And he is emphasizing that devotion to the Supreme Lord is the highest form of worship. So that is pretty much the founding principle of Bhakti. And that is what Kavi goes on to explain. And he has written a lot about that. So we can read about that later. Second is Havir, the great person we just spoke about. And Havir explains or focuses a lot on the qualities of a pure devotee, or qualities of a true devotee, Uttama Bhagavata. That's what his specialization is. The third Yogendra is Antariksha. And Antariksha focuses a lot on how to overcome material desires and attachments as a way of succeeding on the path of Bhakti Yoga. So we all say that we should not have attachment and all of that. But if you want to learn more about the techniques and more information, then you can go follow what Antariksha has written about that. The fourth Yogendra, his name is Prabuddha. And Prabuddha is teaching primarily more specializing on detachment and how to transcend the material world through knowledge and wisdom. So he is using the angle of knowledge and wisdom as a way to cultivate and practice detachment and overcome the material bondages. The fifth Yogendra, his name was Pippalayana, and he is discussing the nature of Supreme Lord. So just like Havir is describing the nature of a devotee, Pippalayana spends time talking about the nature of the Supreme Lord, like how God is both immanent and transcendent, and God is this and God is that, and how God is present everywhere. So that is his speciality. The sixth Yogendra is Avirotra, and he explains the concept of Karma Yoga, specifically Nishkama Karma Yoga, and how you can generate devotion through Nishkama Karma Yoga. So all these topics Krishna has explained all of that, and Krishna has explained it in an easy, simple way. But if you want to go much deeper into each of these aspects, you can go read upon the works of these Yogendras. Then the seventh Yogendra is Drumila, and he is focusing a lot on the pastimes of the Lord, all his leelas, and how understanding and studying these pastimes also is a way to connect or increase our connection with the Lord. The eighth Yogendra is Chamasa, and he is focusing a lot on Maya. The power of Maya, the working of Maya, and how detachment actually can be used as a tool to overcome Maya and all of that. So that is Chamasa, and the ninth Yogendra is Kharabhajana, and he is emphasizing the worship of the Lord in different yugas. In other words, for each yuga, what is the most effective way to cultivate devotion and worship the Lord? That is what he is focusing. And he is also specifically calling out how kirtanam and chanting is the primary way of worshipping the Lord in Kali Yuga. So these are the nine Yogendras with the nine different aspects. So all of this put together should give us a very complete view on Bhakti Yoga and how to succeed on the path. So this particular chapter in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is known as the conversation between Maharaja Nimi and the nine Yogendras, where King Nimi is approaching the Yogendras and he's inquiring about the nature of supreme devotion and what is the characteristics of pure devotees. These are his questions. And in response, Sri Havir is elaborating what are the qualities of a pure devotee. That is what we saw in the sloka we just spoke about. And he's also talking about the quality of universal love, non-violence. So he's pretty much reflecting a lot of the teachings that we also saw in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. That's why we spoke about that in the previous session, because Patanjali also talks about ahimsa as a very important concept before we can go further into the practice of yoga. So all of these, they are all related, they are all connected, and I hope this gives you an idea of all the various aspects of bhakti and what all we need to study and what all we need to practice. So again, I want to repeat that Krishna has a great emphasis on the ability to maintain samatvam in the face of pleasure and pain. It's very, very critical. Why it is critical? Do you know why it is critical that we do samatvam? Is because that is the measure of how much mastery we have over the mind and the senses. Because if your mind is not in your control, or if your senses are not in your control, you can never be calm. You can never be in a mindset of samatvam. It's not possible. So when Krishna says cultivate samatvam, he's basically saying have mastery over the mind and the senses. See, so the measure of whether I have mastery over mind and senses, the measure of that is how often am I able to practice samatvam. The more you can, the more you know that your mind and senses are coming under control. Very, very important. And what is one of the easiest way or one of the most fundamental way to go towards samatvam? Second chapter, detachment, where Krishna tells Arjuna that your anxieties and your troubles, they're all based on the outcomes. You're worried about what is going to happen if I do this. What is going to happen if I kill Bhishma? What is going to happen? And he says, why do you worry about that? Just worry about what is my rightful action, he says. And leave the rest to me. Then that is the way you can take care of all your anxieties and all your worries, right? So that is where he has built the founding block of how to attain samatvam. And we just studied that samatvam is so important for determining our mastery over the mind and senses. See how all of this beautifully, one leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. So it is not just a fashionable statement, karmannevadikaraste mahaphaleshu kadach. It is a very deep, profound building block. It is a foundational block of everything that follows. And then Krishna builds one brick at a time. He lays to build this beautiful mansion of, how you can succeed and achieve perfection over your mind, your senses, and progress and evolve and reach your ultimate goal. So now we said samatvam. So samatvam means you can be calm and, but we qualify it. We say that samatvam means we should be calm regardless of the pains or the difficulties. No, what are those pains? What are those difficulties? No, we have to understand that also, correct? I mean, then it will give us an idea. So it should not be that, okay, if the person next to me is speaking loudly, then I'm okay, I can maintain samatvam. But if the person sitting next to me seems to be, talking about a topic which I don't like, then I cannot be having samatvam. See, because we don't know, like we are not sure, like so let us take just a few minutes to get an idea of what are all the different disturbances, what are all the different pains, what are all the different difficulties that could exist, and how can we handle them in order to come back to the state of samatvam. So in the scriptures, they have very beautifully categorized all pain and all suffering into three categories. Those are ādhyātmik, ādhibhautik, and ādhidaivik. These are the only three types of pain and suffering. Okay. So what is ādhyātmik suffering? These are evolving gradually. It starts with ādhyātmik and then we can go all the way up to ādhidaivik. So let us see what ādhyātmik is. So ādhyātmik suffering is suffering that is originating from the self. We are the masters of our own pain. that is ādhyātmik suffering. So suffering that comes from our own body and our own mind. So let us break it down into two parts. The first part, because we said body and mind. So when we talk about body, it is sharirika dukkha. It's physical. And what are these kind of dukkha? Jara, vyadi, illness, injuries, and also everybody grows old. There is no escape. And as the body becomes older, problems will develop. Your bones will become weaker, your eyesight becomes weaker, your ears start ringing, and many things happen. So that is all in the category of sharirika dukkha, which will come. And it doesn't matter. Tell me something. If you are growing old, people grow old, and because of old age, there are some problems that come. Does that problem depend on how wealthy a person is? Does that problem depend on the social status, whether that person is a king or whether that person is a minister or a clerk? No, nobody is spared. Very, very important. Okay, very important to understand that. But what is the reason of this pain? Why has God designed us this way? That's a question many people ask. Because it is a reminder. It's a reminder that this body is not permanent. It is temporary. And we are not supposed to identify with something which is temporary because we are beyond that. If the body was always strong, the body was always perfect, then it doesn't give us any opportunity to introspect and come to this realization at all. That this body is not me, this body is temporary, right? So that is one of the primary reasons. And it makes us look beyond the body for true peace and true joy. Then the mental pain, which is manasika dukkha. Manasika dukkha, what? The mind. What kind of pains does the mind create? We are all experts in that, right? Anxiety, depression, fear, anger, greed, jealousy, attachment. It's a long list. Our mind is very creative. And these are all the pains, which are manasika dukkha, but it is all ādhyātmik because it comes from within us. Does anybody else put anxiety into us? No. How can anybody do that? Does anybody else feed us jealousy? No. People can make suggestions, but it's entirely our own mind that chooses to, hang on to it. So, very, very important concept. See, that is why in the 6th chapter, Krishna had told us that this mind can be your best friend or it can be your worst enemy. Because of this. Because if you don't make it your friend, it is going to be the cause of your manasika dukkha. Very powerful pains. And if you are suffering from those pains, where will you get samatvam? And if you don't get samatvam, where is the rest coming to come? You see the point. See, in modern society, they try to provide a lot of temporary solutions. Like they will talk about medication for physical pains or, even for mental pain these days, they have different chemicals for different kind of mental pains. But we need to understand, these are all superficial patchwork. They are only trying to address the symptom. They are not addressing the cause. So at the core of ādhyātmik suffering is attachment. Attachment to what? The body, and attachment to the ego, attachment to the pride. These three put together, they are the root cause of all your physical pain and physical suffering. Do you remember what Buddha said very famously? Buddha said, whatever happens in the life is like two arrows. The first arrow is what happens, and the second arrow is how do you react to that. And he said, both arrows need to be present for there to be suffering. See, if nothing happens to you, then also you cannot suffer. Something happens to you, but you choose to react calmly, you choose to react as a Sthita Prajna, then also suffering cannot happen. Correct? So both arrows must be present. Something disturbing has to happen, and you have to also react the wrong way, only then suffering happens. See, pain is not optional, but suffering is optional. That is why if you see, there are some people who will be sitting almost naked on a ice-covered Himalayas. So they may be feeling the pain of that biting cold, but they are not suffering. They are in joy, they are in bliss. Whereas there are people who, even if the AC is a little misconfigured, they are suffering. See the difference? Very important. So that is why Krishna had said to Arjuna, learn to tolerate all of this. And that is how you practice samatvam. The second type of suffering, ādhibhautik. First was ādhyātmik, which comes from within. Second is ādhibhautik, which comes from outside. Outside from where? By other humans, other animals, even other microscopic organisms, everything outside. It comes from there. What kind of sufferings? Like we talk about things like viral infections or bacterial infections, or when it comes to humans, we talk about conflicts and violence and exploitation, and again, a long list of all the things that can happen from the outside. And then Krishna always refers to the law of karma. He says that plays a very significant role in these kind of sufferings. These kind of negative experiences that comes to our life, he says a lot of that is due to the law of cause and effect, the law of karma, where every action has a reaction. We cannot cheat, we cannot overcome. That is what is karmic justice. So, but then if you see, how does the society try to handle ādhibhautik sufferings? They again try to look at the symptom. So they think they can come up with some social reforms or legal measures, or they will teach you physical self-defense. But do you think any of that is going to completely help you overcome ādhibhautik suffering? Because today we have the most advanced technology, we have mature legal system, we have many different types of self-defense mechanisms which have been mastered, but has the pain gone away from the world? No, and it will not. What is the root? Understanding law of karma. And understanding, does anybody have any idea what is the best way to avoid bad karma? Just raise your hands and then I will pick somebody. Okay, Sandeep ji. Yes, Sandeep ji, what do you think?
Give us the roots of action to God.
Excellent. Absolutely accurate. That is Krishna's message. Krishna has said, there is akarma, there is vikarma, and there is karma. Right? He said vikarma means bad karma, and akarma means no karma. And Krishna said, but you cannot really aim to practice akarma. It's not possible, because even if you breathe, it is karma. Because when you take one breath of air, there are millions of germs that are being killed. What do you do about that? You see? So then what is the solution? Krishna said the solution is just sacrifice the results. Don't be attached to the outcome. Do everything as an offering to me. Say that I'm breathing so that I can think of Krishna, so that I'm breathing because I can do service to Krishna. Be in that mindset and say that now I'm doing everything for you, Krishna, and the results I leave it to you. Even if the result is good, it is yours. The result is bad, please take care of that as well. But that is the real power of karmanyevadikaraste. That's the real power of don't focus on the results. Very, very beautiful lessons we are learning. Okay. The third type, ādhidaivik. This is the kind of suffering that we always, blame. Anything happens, no, this is God's will. No. So, ādhidaivik is divine or cosmic forces, which are beyond human control. So, even when we talk about nakshatra, graha, planets, they are all also referring to this only, ādhidaivik suffering. And humans, they have tried so many different ways to try and protect themselves. For example, floods happen, earthquakes happen. These are all ādhidaivik because they are all beyond the human control. And then people think they can, build earthquake-proof buildings, or again, all the time focusing on just trying to find some short-term fixes. But Krishna is saying that the real complete way to overcome ādhidaivik suffering is only through surrender. Just surrender to the divine. Perform rightful actions with the right mindset and then surrender to the divine. In other words, just acknowledge that everything is part of a divine plan. That way you are not suffering. Yeah, the pain may be there, but you are not suffering. You are in faith. You are acting out of faith that I accept this. There is a divine plan. There is a divine purpose. I acknowledge it. I accept it. You take it that way. Where is there suffering then? Even if there is pain. So that is Krishna's message here. We can go much deeper later if anybody has questions. And then the key message here is there are all these types of sufferings. We cannot just try to escape. No, nobody can escape. We only can try to figure out how to deal with them and how to overcome the suffering that is caused because of them. Because Krishna has repeatedly said that the root cause of suffering is ignorance. Because that ignorance is the one that is also causing attachment. What ignorance? Ignorance of our true nature. True nature is what? Eternal souls. Because only when you identify with the body and the mind and the material world, only then you can suffer. See, the world is inherently temporary. That is the nature of the world. You cannot change that. That is a fact. And everything which is part of this temporary world is subject to change, decay, destruction. Is bound to happen. Anything that was created is going to get destroyed. That is the niyati. That is the law of the universe. So if every time anything gets destroyed, if you are going to be in suffering, then you are going to be suffering all your life. See, that is the whole idea here. And then Krishna says the solution is also there. The solution is self-realization. Because when you realize that you are not the body, you are not the mind, but you are that Atman, that eternal soul, then you automatically transcend all the suffering. That kind of higher awareness is what is required. That is why Krishna is emphasizing detachment. Detachment from not just results, but detachment also from your own body, detachment from your own ego, your own pride, and then surrender to the Supreme as the true way of trying to transcend that suffering. So if you can truly surrender the right way, that is the best solution for all sufferings, be it ādhyātmik, be it ādhibhautik, be it ādhidaivik. If you are a surrendered soul, none of that can cause suffering. That is the whole idea here. So it's all making sense. So self-realization is the only solution. Knowing one's true nature. So there is this great sage, again, his name is Vashishta. Yoga-Vashishta is one of the scriptures, a very, very popular scripture. Its name it is called as Yoga-Vashishta. So in this scripture, sage Vashishta, he is teaching about the root cause of suffering. And he is telling there how ignorance is the root cause of suffering. So there is a very beautiful part of that text which I have tried to extract, where there is a discussion happening between sage Vashishta and Lord Rama. So they are having a conversation about nature of reality, nature of self, and all of that. And there Vasishtha is explaining about the nature of ignorance. So this is a short discussion which I have copied from that text. Very beautiful, profound. So there Vasishtha says that the self, which is in ignorance, it mistakenly imagines itself to be something separate. It's very profound. So stay with me. I will go as slow as possible. But if you can pay attention and stay with me, this is a very, very deep, profound teaching. So Vasishtha says that it is just like a golden ring which forgets that it is being made of gold. And then it starts lamenting. Lamenting why? It says, oh no, I have become just a ring now. I am no more gold. No, because now everybody is calling it a ring, no? People call it a wedding ring, engagement ring, that ring, this ring. So the ring is saying, now I have become a ring, so I am no longer a gold. So Lord Rama says, oh revered teacher, how can such ignorance and the ego arise within the self? In other words, how does this ignorance come? So Vasishtha says, oh Rama, one should see, this is the most profound aspect. It's okay if it's not completely clear. At least try to remember as much as possible, and then we can go deeper later, because this is a very core, deep aspect of Advaita Vedanta, which is coming out here. So because Rama is asking Vasishtha, he's saying, how does such ignorance arise within the self? How does it come? From where does it come? And then Vasishtha, look at the answer, how deep it is. So Vasishtha says, oh Rama, one should only ask question about what is real, not about what is not real. So beautiful. He says, the idea of ringness, so he's calling it as a ringness, because the ring thinks it is only a ring. That is ringness. Just like we have humanness. We think we are a human. So he says the idea of a ringness, which is separate from goldness, or the idea of an ego, which is separate from the self, he says does not truly exist. When a jeweler sells a ring, he's selling it based on the weight of the gold, not on the shape of the ring. Correct? So if we start talking about the reality of ringness as somehow being separate from gold, in other words, if somebody is asking where did that ringness come within the gold, Vasishtha says, but that doesn't even exist. It has always been gold. So these are not two things. These are not two separate things. The only thing, the only right thing is true consciousness, which is manifesting as many different forms and names. He says this is how deep this ignorance goes. It creates the illusion of ego and the entire world process, but this ego does not even exist within the infinite self. In that infinite self, there is no creator, there is no creation, there is no heaven, there is no hell, there is no demon, there is no body, there is no time, there is nothing. There is no you, there is no I. No falsehood, none of those things exists. There is no sense of diversity, no contemplation, no enjoyment. In other words, what we think of as the universe is actually that supreme Brahman only. In other words, what we think of as this ring or this bangle or that necklace is all gold only. You see? So nothing apart from gold really exists. So the question he says, you are asking is not the right question. Only a Vasishtha can have such a, insightful response. Very, very deep, very, very insightful. I can explain later more in detail. So he says, in ignorance, we are perceiving the Supreme Being as the world, as something separate. But just as space, see this example, so deep again. He says, just as space exists within space, everything that appears as creation is really Brahman, existing within Brahman. Beautiful, isn't it? The notion of far, near, here, there, no, they are only as real. Look at this example again. As the space between two objects reflected in a mirror that contains the image of an entire city. In other words, let us say you are standing on top of a mountain, you are holding a mirror. Now you can see the entire city within the mirror. Correct? Now two ends of the city may be 100 kilometers apart, but in the mirror, they look like they are just this big. But is that real? So he's trying to explain like that. So he's saying this whole idea of far, near, here, there, it is all like looking at a mirror. I'm not trying to understand what the reality is, because in the reality there is no beginning, there is no end, there is no middle. It's very deep. So yeah, if you have questions, park it, just think about it, and at the end of the session, if you really have questions, I can explain it in different ways. Because this is really the core of Advaita philosophy. This is why Anandamayi Ma so beautifully said in very simple words, "Jahan do hai, wahan dukh hai." Only when there is this aspect of separation, only then there can be dukkha. And that is what Vasishtha is trying to explain in different ways here. In other words, the ring thinks it is somehow different from a gold now. It has become different from gold. That is what the ring thinks. That is why the ring is sad. It doesn't realize that it is still gold. Just like we think we have become Sandeep, or we have become Asha, or we have become Suchita, or Ekansha, or whatever, and that disturbs us. But we don't realize that we are not really different. We are still the same Brahman only. It is just a different manifestation. We cannot exist separately from the Brahman. It's not possible. Can the ring exist if there was no gold? I mean, can a golden ring exist if there was no gold? No, it's not possible, right? That is the message here. So, and then Krishna is now emphasizing that a devotee is free from fear and anxiety. He says, which kind of devotee? The devotee he's talking about. If they cultivate the habits and the qualities Krishna wants them to, then they will be free from fear and anxiety, because the root cause of fear is attachment. Does that make sense? Because what are we afraid of? We are always afraid of losing something. Losing the body, losing our money, losing our this, losing our that, losing our relation. You see? So always it's about losing something. That is what fear is all about. Losing our security. So Krishna says that is all attachment. Whereas a pure devotee has transcended attachment. So once they have transcended attachment, there is nothing to fear, because they have surrendered everything to God. They have truly understood that Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, everything anyways belongs to God. When I say everything belongs to God, that includes my body. My body also belongs to God. So once I truly believe, once I have faith in that, once I live that conviction, then where is fear? Where is room for fear? What are you then afraid of? Very powerful. Very, very powerful. So in the second chapter, again, Krishna told Arjuna, he said, Arjuna, for one who is born, death is certain. For one who dies, birth is certain. He is reminding Arjuna that the world is temporary, cyclic, and death is inevitable. And once we understand this, once we acknowledge this, then there should be no fear for death. Why should you fear something that is certain? You should only, think about it this way. If something is really certain, what is the point in being afraid of that? Very, very beautiful. Because he says, once you understand that, there can be no fear of death. Once you understand the soul is eternal, then there can be no fear of loss. And once you have surrendered to me, there can be no longer any anxiety, because you have surrendered everything to me already. Tell me something, a servant, a real humble servant of a rich person, does the servant ever worry that the rich person's money will be lost? Because the servant says the money belongs to my boss, it belongs to my lord, it belongs to my owner. So the servant is usually peaceful. Just like that, Krishna says, when you surrender everything to me, then why do you have to worry? Why do you worry? What are you worrying about? You worry only as long as you live in the illusion that you control things, as long as you have the illusion that you own something. Only if you have the illusion you own something, you will be in the fear of losing it. See, very powerful, very, very powerful, very profound. Of course, Krishna also talks about expectations, which is another aspect of the same attachment. And he says, offer everything to me, and then you will not have disappointments. And that is how you get inner peace and contentment. And then the next quality Krishna speaks about is importance of purity. Purity is both external and internal. So, for example, when we say external, we are talking about shaucha. And again, we spoke in Patanjali's niyama, right? One of the niyama was shaucha, which is cleanliness, which is important, but also it is internal purity, where have a sattvic lifestyle, a lifestyle which is conducive to spiritual growth, which is free from tamasic influence. Don't give in to intoxication, don't give in to unhealthy foods, negative environments, negative people, avoid prayer, always choose shreya. So it's very important, because when we say internal purity, Krishna goes further and he says internal purity is the manifestation. So if you have internal purity, again the same question, how do you measure? How do you measure whether you are pure? A lot of people think that they are pure. They will very fashionably say, I have only pure intentions. That's okay, but how do you yourself know whether you are truly pure? What is the measure? The top three vikaras that Krishna called: ego, anger, lust, kama, krodha. Remember, Krishna said these are the gateways to hell. So, pride, anger, lust, greed. Ask yourself how many times it bothers you, how many times you think you are influenced by pride, or influenced by krodha, anger, or influenced by lust, or influenced by greed. Ask yourself. As long as the answer is yes, I'm being influenced, then you are yet not there. We are yet not completely pure within. But it's a process. So don't give up. Krishna says, Abhyasa Yoga. Keep practicing. Keep practicing, and eventually you will get there. But you should know whether you are getting there. That's the whole point here. Because only this clarity and purity is going to let us truly have compassion and empathy. If you are jealous of somebody, can you ever be compassionate with that person? No. It's not possible. Correct? Okay. If you are very prideful, can you really have samadarshana? Not possible, because it will always be, I am somehow superior. So these all teachings, they all beautifully merge with each other. So these are all very, very important in the path of Bhakti Yoga. And then, of course, Krishna finally says the final quality he is expecting, or he thinks, or he says, or advises the pure devotee should have is complete faith, devotion, and surrender. Absolutely important for anybody following the path of Bhakti Yoga. Krishna is assuring, Krishna is saying that those devotees who are surrendering completely with no other desire but just to love and serve, they will definitely be lifted. Didn't Krishna say just in the previous slokas of this chapter itself, 12.7, 12.6, when we read, Krishna said, I'll personally uplift such people. So that is what Krishna is telling us. Nothing really very difficult. So that is the culmination of spiritual practice. The realization that the highest purpose is to merge with the divine. And Krishna has given so many aspects on how to get there. The Srimad Bhagavatam also says the same thing. It is declaring that devotion to God is the highest dharma. And what did Krishna say? We should always practice Swadharma. See how beautifully this all tied together? So Krishna says always practice Swadharma. And then eventually he is making us understand that the highest dharma for all of us is achieving union with Krishna. So that should be what our Swadharma should be. And that should be what we should be practicing. Is it all making sense, my dear Satsang family? So, would you like me to quickly recap whatever we learned in Bhakti Yoga specifically? You're all okay? We should do that? Okay. If you would like me to do that, let me do a recap of Bhakti Yoga, what we have learned so far in the Bhagavad Gita. So union with the divine is the ultimate goal of all yoga. We all agree, hopefully. And of course, that union can be achieved by different paths. However, Krishna has said that the easiest and most effective path is path of bhakti. And the divine is Satchidananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. And the devotee or bhakta, he seeks that bliss, which is the yearning for union with the Lord, who is the beloved. So for a bhakta, the Lord is the beloved. And to dwell upon the beloved is the sweetest joy of the bhakta. And that is why bhakti is called as a path of sweetness, where sweetness pervades the entire existence of the bhakta. Because it's all love. And love is sweet, supposed to be sweet. So you are always in the mindset of sweetness. That is bhakti, that is Bhakti Yoga. So then how does one attain this sweetness? See, we have to be very clear. Not everybody has the privilege to become a bhakta. It's not, bhakti is easy, but being a bhakta and succeeding is not easy. It doesn't come to everybody. No, it's a privilege. Why do we say it is a privilege? Krishna has said in different ways. He said that the first step has to come from the devotee. Because it has to be your own free will. It has to come from you. Because only then the Lord can respond. See, I will ask you something. Let us have a quick, small little quiz. Again, raise your hands if you have an answer and I'll pick somebody. Let us say you desire to win a lottery, jackpot lottery. No, that is your desire. And you are asking God, please fulfill that desire. But what is the step that you have to take for that to become a reality? Okay, we have one hand up. 2, 3. Anybody who has not spoken? Okay, Ekansh, what do we need to do?
First, go and buy the lottery.
Yes, Ekansh, you have already become a jnani. Very good. But see, this is making sense to everybody. This comes very naturally that says, if my desire is to win a lottery jackpot, then I have to buy a ticket. If you don't buy a ticket, there is no scope of you winning, right? Just like that, achieving union with the Supreme is like a lottery. Yes, you can win it, but then you have to buy the ticket. That is what Krishna says. The first step has to be from the devotee. And if you take the first step, then Krishna says, I'm there. I'm there to guide. But if you refuse to buy a ticket, how can anybody help you win the jackpot? Make sense? Okay. Now, how does that first step come? What will make you take that first step? Now, that is where we have all this ādhyātmik, ādhibhautik, ādhidaivik. These are all the shocks. These are all the triggers. Because not everybody is born with a high level of consciousness. So they are all the things which help you make that first step of reaching out. Because if everything seems to go perfectly, there is no incentive to take a first step, right? If you are born a billionaire, you don't even want to win the jackpot. So where are you going to go buy a ticket? Right? Just like that, that first step comes because of a shock. Maybe it's an illness or a sorrow or some kind of disappointment, some loss. No, these are all shocks and triggers. And we have to understand they are there to make us take those steps required to win the real lottery, to win the real jackpot. That is how we are supposed to look at them. So if you look at our friend Arjuna, the strong Arjuna, Mahabaho, see what happened. He strode into the battlefield of Kurukshetra, confident in his abilities. He was not afraid at all. He was not really. Did he ever say, I don't know if I can win? No, he didn't have any of those thoughts. He very confidently enters the war. And then what happens? He was noble, he was accomplished. He was also a very beloved friend of Krishna. But then he looks at the opposing forces and he sees that there are relatives, there are people who he cares for. There is Bhishma, there is Drona, his teacher. And then what happens? He gets overwhelmed. And then he starts asking, what am I fighting for? See? And then what happens? His heart starts trembling. His mind gets thrown into turmoil. Correct? Ādhyātmik pain is coming now. His body weakens. His Gandiv slips from his shoulders. He falls to his knees. He comes to his knees. A mighty warrior, one of the mightiest warriors, brought to their knees by what? Nobody pushed him. Nobody even touched him. By what? By his own confusion and despair, caused by his own mind. Perfect example of ādhyātmik pain. But it was in this moment of utter vulnerability that Arjuna turns to Krishna the right way. Till then, Krishna was just a Sakha. Krishna was just a friend. But this pain, what happens? What does it do to him? He takes the first step. And he tells Krishna, Krishna, I am your disciple. I surrender. Please teach me. No? You see that? Please help me. And this moment of surrender is what Krishna was waiting for. Because they had an intimate bond. That's true. But Arjuna was not yet looking for that jackpot. Arjuna was not yet ready to go buy that ticket. You see? But this ādhyātmik pain is what proves to be that shock that turns him in that direction, that helps him take the first step. Because Arjuna had reached the stage of Sakhya Bhakti now, after all this friendship. Remember, Sakhya is one of the 9 ladders. Do you all remember the 9 types of Bhakti? Does anybody remember? We discussed 9 types of Bhakti. There is Shravana, Kirtana, Smarana, Pada Sevanam, Archana, Vandanam, Dasyam. After Dasyam comes Sakhya. But after Sakhyam comes the final. The final is Atmanivedanam. Atmanivedanam is the complete surrender. Arjuna had reached Sakhyam, but he had not yet transcended that to enter Atmanivedanam. Why? What was preventing him? Now I want to see who has the answer for this. What was preventing Arjuna from crossing over from Sakhyam to Atmanivedanam? Raise your hands if you think you know the answer. Okay, Simranji.
Complete surrender.
Yeah, that is
Trust.
what was required, but what was preventing him from?
So he was not able to surrender or trust that.
Yeah, why? Okay, who else? Deepa, you had something to say?
His own doubts and belief in himself, that will he be able to.
Okay. Why was he having all those doubts? Who? Yes, okay. Chitraji has something to say.
Because of his own pride and ego.
Excellent. 100 marks. It was his own pride. That is why eventually Krishna is taunting Arjuna, saying, you talk like a Pandita. You remember that? He says, Arjuna, you talk like a Pandita. Because Arjuna is still prideful of his own knowledge, his own understanding. Now that was what was preventing him from transcending that Sakhya to enter Atmanivedana. And that is what was required to actually succeed on the path. You see? So once he made that attempt, then Krishna reveals the true nature of the self, the eternal soul. And then he showed him the Vishwarupa Darshanam, and all of those beautiful things came after that. And then Sri Krishna, while explaining the path of Bhakti Yoga, he speaks about 4 types of devotees. The Artha-Arthis, the Jigyasu, the Arthas, and the Jnanis. Because Arjuna had come to the battlefield seeking power and glory, but then he was transformed by the horror of the war into a Artha. He became an Artha there. What was Artha? Distressed and broken. And then his quest for a solution turned him into a Jigyasu. Because seeker of wisdom, now he wanted to understand. And then Krishna's teachings elevated him to a state of Jnani. A wise one who understands the true self. See how Arjuna himself went through all the stages, all the 4 types that Krishna is talking about. And Krishna's command was very simple. Krishna told him, just remember me and fight, do your dharma. And he said, even the wise must act not for personal gain, but to set an example for others. Oh, Arjuna, it's very important that you set the right example. Your duty is to fight. But then what should you do after the war? Does it matter whether you win or lose? No. How should you live after the war? Krishna says, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, whatever you practice, just do it as an offering to me. Every act, no matter how small, how simple, it becomes an act of worship if it is offered to the Lord. So some people ask, some people says, what does it mean by bhakti? What does it mean by devotion? What mantra should I say? What rituals should I practice? Krishna says, even if you are just walking, you walk it as an offering to me. That is a great offering. That is devotional practice. It doesn't matter what you do, just do it as an offering to me. That is the real aspect of devotional practice. That is what Krishna said. And then Krishna gave us an assurance. What was the assurance? He said, those who worship me with unwavering devotion, meditate upon me as the supreme goal, I will swiftly deliver them from the ocean of birth and death. That was the assurance. So the key is constant remembrance, ananya chintan. Now Arjuna came to Kurukshetra with the intent of winning a war. Then he was brought to his knees by the malfunctioning of his own mind, so much so that he became suicidal. And then it was Krishna's teaching that elevates him, that makes him realize his duty, that makes him see the truth. And then Arjuna's delusion was dispelled, and he declares, and Arjuna declares there, Arjuna says, oh Lord, by your grace, my confusion is now gone. Now my memory is restored, and I am now ready to act as you intend. In other words, now I am surrendered. Now I am going to just do my duty and leave everything else to you. In other words, bhakti breaks the chains of ego and liberates the soul to soar freely into the infinite expanse of the divine. That's the beauty. So this is my humble attempt at giving a quick recap of Bhakti Yoga that we practiced or that we learned. I can also give a quick summary of what we learned in chapter 12. So far, let us summarize, because chapter 12 is so important. It is Bhakti Yoga. So Krishna starts by saying, Arjuna, listen well, because I'm going to explain the essence of devotion. He says, just like there are many paths that can take you to the top of a mountain, there are various paths to attain the supreme. But among them, the path of bhakti is the sweetest and the shortest. Bhakti is the constant flow of the mind towards Krishna. And then Krishna also says, however, the path of bhakti is not easily attained by all, because the devotee has to take the first step. The rest is in my hand, but the first is in your hand. See? So Krishna says, the first step is in your hand, and then the rest is in my hand. And then we saw the example of Arjuna and how Krishna imparted all the wisdom of bhakti. And then Krishna speaks about 4 types of devotees: the distressed, the seekers of knowledge, seekers of worldly possession, and the wise. And Krishna said, all of them turn to me in their own way. The path of bhakti is open to all, regardless of where they are, who they are. Even the simplest act, when they are done as an offering to Krishna, becomes an act of worship. Doesn't matter if it is eating or sleeping or worshipping or charity or whatever. If it is done with bhava of devotion, it is an offering to Krishna. The key is constant remembrance, ananya chintan, which will help us get free from this sansar. And then he says, therefore, Arjuna, abandon all other duties and take refuge in me. I shall liberate you from all sins and sorrow. Have no fear. With your doubts dispelled and your mind fixed on me, engage in your duty as an offering to me. This is pretty much the essence of bhakti, the path of love and devotion. It is the surest way, it is the sweetest way to attain union with the divine. It is the surest way to break free from the bonds of ego. and to soar freely towards the Supreme Consciousness. So, with this understanding, let us all strive to cultivate as many qualities of the pure devotee as possible and become dear to Krishna. And once we manage to become dear to Krishna, that's it. Then we become the baby kitten. What we are studying so far is how to become a kitten. And then once you become a kitten, then it is the responsibility of the mother cat. So with that, I think I can stop talking. Hare Krishna. I hope this session made sense, and I hope you're walking away with some deep understanding on Bhakti Yoga, how to practice it, and how to achieve success. So, if you have any questions, doubts, the floor is open. Go ahead.
Sir, I am running short of time. I have to go somewhere. May I say Hare Krishna and leave?
Yes. Hare Krishna. Thank you for attending.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. You don't need my permission. If you are busy, if you have any work, please feel free to drop. And if you have any questions, feel free to raise. I'm here for some more time for you all. If there is no question, that's also fine. We can just close the session, and in the next session, we can probably just revise, and we can start with the introduction to the next chapter. Was it too much gyan? Was it overload? Okay. But my request is to not just let it be a theoretical knowledge. This can pretty much transform your life, because this is the key, this is the crux of our spiritual evolution. So my request is to read this as often as you can, and make sure that at least in 12th chapter you should not have any doubts, you should not have any questions. And so go through all of the sessions again, and if you find that you are having any question or any doubt, you have to raise it. You have to make sure it's absolutely clear. That's my only intention. Okay, Hare Krishna. Yeah, Deepa, you wanted to say something?
So, Guruji, I've been going through chapter 2 and 2.55. It's the same example of Vashishta and Rama conversation. And there you had talked about this Mrigatrisha.
Mrigatrishna, yeah.
So I was trying to connect that as well in the current context. I mean, it's all about the ignorance, and while yes,
Exactly.
but there you talked about how the deer keeps running. Seeing that mirage, that there is water there. I was just trying to connect the two. Just help us to connect the two. I mean, here this example of gold and the ringness, and how we get so attached to the ringness that we forget our originality. So I'm just trying to connect this with that Mrigatrisha that you had.
Correct. Beautiful. Thank you for bringing that. So basically what we are saying, let us go backwards. Let's go from what we discussed today. Today we said that the ring is under this illusion that it has become a ring. So it somehow thinks it was a gold. I was gold before, now I have become a ring. So I'm no more gold. That is the sadness. In other words, we believe that we have become our manifested self. So whatever we are, like Chitra or Apurva or whatever, or Deepa, we kind of think that we are that. And we have lost that spirit aspect. We have lost that godliness, because now we have become human, correct? Now, how do you overcome this? This is illusion, this is ignorance, correct? But now the answer is, we have to now walk towards that supreme, walk towards that understanding that we are not this, but we are eternal. But how is that possible if you are busy running towards the material realm? If you are busy running more and more towards the manifested aspects, my house, my car, my family, my power, my money, my social status, me, that is Mrigatrishna. You are running behind an illusion of water which is not even existing, which is not even true. And you keep running till you die, and then you die. So you had no time to turn the other way, the right way. So in today's session, we spoke about how Vasishtha is saying you should never forget that your reality is that. And in the second chapter, we spoke about how Vasishtha is saying we are faced in the wrong direction and we are running in the wrong direction. I hope that connect is clear now, Deepaji. Thank you for asking that question. So,
But then, Guruji, Chitra here, Hare Krishna. Can you hear me?
yes.
So, the part about us offering any of our actions or all the fruits to Him, like, isn't that itself an illusion? Because, anyways, everything belongs to Him. So, nothing belongs to us. So, what are we offering to Him that already belongs to Him?
It is a bhava that we are offering. It is a mindset. That is why Krishna said, Patram pushpam phalam toyam. Krishna is not caring what you are giving him. Krishna is saying your bhava. That is what you can give him. That belongs to you, right? This mindset of I am offering is what Krishna wants. Not what you are offering, because yes, that already belongs to Krishna. Just like a small child, your son or daughter, draws a funny picture of you, and gives it to you as a gift. Now that paper belongs to you, that pen belongs to you. You even think the child belongs to you. So, but are you asking the child, why are you giving me something that belongs to me? What are you focusing on? You are focusing on the bhava, right? Oh, the child thought of me. The child drew something. The child wants to gift me something. That bhava is what gives you happiness. And that bhava is what the child is actually giving you, which is precious. Just like that, what you are offering already belongs to Krishna. Everybody knows that. But do you have the mindset? Do you have the bhava that it all belongs to Krishna and you are offering everything to Krishna? Is the question.
But that will... Okay, yeah.
In fact, Guruji, when you asked that question about the lottery, and so like, if you want to win a lottery, then what is it that you first thing you should do? While yes, Ikash gave the answer that you should buy the lottery ticket, but what came to my mind is if I win the lottery, I will offer that to Krishna. I mean, like as you said, the bhava, or like, dedicate
Correct.
the fruit of your action. So that's the answer came to my mind.
Correct.
But when you said that you have to buy the lottery ticket, for me it's like I won and I'm dedicating it to Krishna. That's what came to my mind.
So first win karo na. Win karo, fir dedicate karo na. See, this is what Narada Muni said, na, Bhakti Sutra mein. No bhukti, no mukti, just bhakti. That is the ultimate stage, where even the jackpot you are offering to Krishna, even this liberation, if you can offer to Krishna, even the mukti, you have won the jackpot. The jackpot is mukti. And then you are telling Krishna, I am offering even this jackpot to you. I am offering even my liberation to you. I don't want liberation. You see? So that is the absolute level of bhakti. Yeah, Ekansh?
Guruji, on the same thing, it just reminded me that you also taught us like to having a higher purpose. Your higher purpose should not be like getting liberated. Our higher purpose is to do more devotion when we get liberated, to serve Krishna more closely.
Correct. Correct. So all we are saying is that liberation itself is a lottery.
Yeah.
Because Krishna himself has said that, you cannot deserve it anytime by doing anything. You cannot demand it. You cannot, you cannot earn it. It can only come by grace. And that grace is the lottery we are talking about. And then once you win the lottery, dedicate that also to Krishna. That is the biggest offering you can make. Yes, do that for sure. But it cannot be that you have 0 rupees in your pocket, but you are saying, okay, I am offering billion rupees to you, Krishna. कहाँ से? बनाओ ना पहले. Earn it na. And Krishna has told you how to earn it. He has given you stepwise plan. Yeah, that is the whole message. Okay, so I thank you for your participation. Hi, Apurva. Okay. Thank you for your active participation. Really appreciate it, and see you all in the next session. Hare Krishna. If you had any other questions or suggestions, please reach out to me in our forum. I'll be more than happy to address it. Okay. Hare Krishna.